Hey Explorers! Welcome back to Unit 5 of Fast and Curious, our Forces unit. Okay, today we're going to be talking about some three main types of forces that are going to be relevant to our cars. We have what are called applied forces, frictional forces, and gravitational forces, which I think you've heard about from our last video that Pat did. Alright. First, we have applied forces. Pretty self-explanatory, it's kind of in the name. That's any force which is created from an interaction. So that's things like maybe I push somebody or I kick a soccer ball. Actually, if I could have my friend Amir come over here. If I do this, I've applied a force to him. It's an applied force. He wasn't moving, and then I gave him an acceleration. And because he already has mass, because everything that exists has some mass, except for something, but we're not going to talk about that, I created a force which caused him to move. So we have our example of me pushing Amir. Ah! And then that's him screaming. Okay. Now on to our frictional forces. So frictional forces, that's going to be different from forces which you've normally heard about. You may have heard of friction before. Simply put, it's sort of this opposing force. You know, for anything that moves, there's pretty much always going to be something that's trying to stop them. If we go back to our kicking the soccer ball example. If you kick a soccer ball on grass, it's going to move through that grass. But what do you also know about that soccer ball? It's going to stop moving at some point. I'm sure everybody who's watching this video has played soccer, right? But why does the soccer ball stop? Well, what's happening is that the grass is actually creating a tiny little force in the opposite direction of the direction that the soccer ball was kicked in, which eventually cancels out that bigger initial applied force. Now, this doesn't have to be just with grass. Frictional forces can come about as a result of, interactions with the air. So if you think about throwing a paper ball, the air is going to slow that down, or maybe a rocket ship. As a rocket soars high up into the sky, you have to have a lot of energy being put into that launch, in part, so that it can just get through the air in the first place, because the air is putting a big force on it to keep it down. Finally, we have gravitational forces, which you learned about a little bit from Patton in the last video. One important thing that I want to add that wasn't covered in the last video was that of the normal force. So if we have something that is standing still, it's laying on the ground like me, it's still going to have a gravitational force on it. It's still going to have a force pressing down on it. You might say, well, if it has a force on it, why is it not moving? Well, it's because it doesn't have just one force on it. It has two. So that second force is the normal force. All you need to know about the normal force is that for anything that is on the ground and it is not moving, there is an equal and opposite force created by the ground that is opposing the gravitational force so that the thing isn't moving. So I actually have two equal forces on me right now. Now, to figure out forces and how they look, we can use what are called free body diagrams. So, free body diagrams are mainly just help a way to kind of visualize what forces are acting on an object. And so, for this free body diagram example, I'm going to use cars, because that's what's relevant for us. So if we have, let's say we have a car at different periods of time. Let's say we have this long track for a car, and we're just going to use a ball for the car. I'm not good at drawing cars, as you've seen from previous videos. So the way we represent forces, as you might have seen earlier, my earlier drawings, for anything, is we just draw arrows coming out of the thing. So for our gravitational force here, we're going to have just one arrow. But we also got to remember our normal force. But since our car isn't moving yet, we don't need a frictional force. That's about it. All right, let's get our car rolling. It is now down the hill. Well, good news is our gravitational force is still always going to be down. Difference is the contact that the car has with the floor is now different. It's at a different angle. It's not completely flat. So our normal force is actually going to be a bit off to the side. But now, since we're moving, we're also going to have a frictional force going that way. And so when you actually combine all these forces, you'll see that instead of staying still, the ball is actually going to roll that way, in part because of the direction of the normal force. The normal force is now pushing the ball to the right. And if we continue, or the car down to the right, if we continue down the slope, you're going to see that this kind of representation is pretty much the same. I guess we could probably add a little bit. There is an application of an applied force somewhere between these 2 points right here, which cause the ball to go rolling. But the forces, it's pretty much the same all the way down up until we get to the end here, where we are back to just a gravitational force and a normal force. Which you can see, the car is now at a standstill. Now I want to give you a fun little demonstration using my cello. So we go to another example of frictional forces. We have my cello here. The way a cello, really simply, the way a cello works or any string instrument works is there has to be some friction between the bow and the string so that it moves. Without the friction, the bow isn't putting any force on the string's not going to move and it's not going to make any sound. Like if we take a marker right here and we try and play it across the string, you see how that's not, you can hear it, but there's not a lot of sound going on because there's not a lot of friction. It's a really smooth surface. There's no, the materials aren't rubbing against each other like that and pulling on each other, as opposed to the bow, which it's very, very gritty in there. It does kind of catch on the string. So you can see that is a much louder sound, much stronger sound in comparison to that. That's about all I have for you on our forces unit. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you in the next video, our last video, Unit 6, on, I believe, energy. Thank you, stay fast, and stay curious.
Thanks for watching.